Hamlet is a kind of ideal, philosophically oriented prince. And Shakespeare, though he uses ghosts and witches to some extent, he avoids too much of supernatural element. He avoids too much of religion because he more deals with human nature. And in a very subtle way, he refers to religious values. That is where the greatness of Shakespeare is. Many of the plays people produce will be talking, bringing gods and all that, even Homer and all that. Here, Shakespeare, only you have Banquo's ghost in Macbeth, to some extent only. Shakespeare wrote plays for human beings, about human beings. So, bringing in a little bit of religious element is only to strengthen the character of the human beings, not to spread anything of evangelical value.
It greatly enriches the character.
The character. And the most important character next to Hamlet is Ophelia. That is the daughter of the wily Prime Minister Polonius, who willingly supported Claudius in everything. Now we are going to bring in something which is a little serious, which was not generally heard of till the end of 80s. The new research after 1995, as far as we know, and I have not read it in a book, but I have only read on the internet, 95 onwards, a very serious thing about Ophelia. Was Ophelia pregnant? Is a serious issue. If she was pregnant, who was responsible for the pregnancy? Next point. How did she die? All of us thought she fell into a river and died. She had a drowning death. But now doubts are raised. Did she really accidentally die, or did someone push her into the river, or killed her and dropped her body into the river? Was she murdered?
Yes.
These things, anyone who goes to the internet will see in the last 10 years. I mean, it's very, very fascinating, and sometimes for people who have who don't have access to the internet, who read books which were written about 20 years ago, they say nonsense. What are you doing? So it is on the basis of the text the critics say she was pregnant, number one. Number two, most of us would immediately think, because they were in love, might be Hamlet was responsible. Now the theory is, no, it was Claudius who was responsible. That's one of the theories. And then they say Queen Gertrude got to know that Ophelia is pregnant with Claudius's child, and she gets worried that the throne would pass to Ophelia's child, not her own son Hamlet. That is why the suspicion or the theory that Queen Gertrude got Ophelia killed. This is a very serious affair, but if anyone reads the research papers on this, they would realize all the comments are from the text. For example, when Laertes and King Claudius are discussing Polonius' death, suddenly Queen Gertrude enters and informs Laertes, your sister is dead, he is no more, she drowned. Generally, queens don't come.
It's a messenger who delivers.
And tells you about the death of someone. He is a messenger. And then Queen Gertrude gives a graphic description of how Ophelia died.
And even the scene of the death.
Yes.
The water, the plants around in the area, the trees in the area.
That is not done by the queen. So that is why the critics say it is all planned. It was planted. There are two statements made about Shakespearean tragedies and Shakespearean comedies. Comedies are mundane, tragedies are cosmic. Comedies are just for this world. Tragedies give you details of life after death, higher causes, spiritualism and all that. There is another interesting point made. Shakespearean tragedies, women are not very strong. Shakespearean comedies, there is no need for strong men because women are very strong.
There is no
Portia
hero
in Twelfth Night.
There is no hero in
Yes. Rosalind in As You Like It. There is no hero in comedy. It is the woman's strength because of their practical wisdom, their basic strength. Where some people are misguided by fellow men and they are actually when man misguides woman, he always tells her, it is for your goodness I am misguiding you. And when she falls into the trap, she cannot make a comedy of her family. That's where both Ophelia and Queen Gertrude could not really guide Hamlet properly. So he could not
come out of the
really cherish their values much. That is why he criticizes them. There are very serious scenes where he criticizes Ophelia. Get thee to nunnery.
Get thee to nunnery.
You see, very serious comments he makes. Some people thought he was mad. That is where the whole thing comes. Actually, when we read a play, we have very serious problems. In one scene, Ophelia, Claudius and Polonius are there on the stage. According to one edition, Claudius and Polonius go behind the screen, behind the curtains, and then Hamlet enters. According to another edition, Hamlet enters and then these people go. That means Hamlet saw them go behind the curtain. It will give him the impression that Ophelia is spying on him.
He is the instrument of the. He is the instrument of the.
She was a willing instrument of their dastardly
father
activities.
and the
Father and King Claudius. Now, I'll just read some material from this scene. Those people who would later go to the library and look at the play, this is Act 3, Scene 1. Hamlet enters, according to some editions, after line 54, according to some editions, after line 55. You may say, what is this one line? Line 55 is, Polonius says, I hear him coming. Let us withdraw, my lord. I hear him coming. Maybe he has already entered the stage, or sound from a distance. If he has already entered the stage, we are allowed to assume that he had seen them go. But mind you, Olivier in his movie puts this scene elsewhere, to be or not to be seen.
Yes.
So, different beautiful movies made on Hamlet make some adjustments here and there. But I am now referring to the most important soliloquy of Hamlet. To be or not to be, that is the question. And those people who are familiar with Jean-Paul Sartre's book, Being and Nothing, will realize this to be is not simple be, it is much more. To be or not to be, that is the question. Whether it's nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to take arms against a sea of troubles and by opposing end them. To die, to sleep, no more. So he is not afraid of death at all. And by a sleep to say we end the heartache and the thousand natural shocks that flesh is head to, it is a consummation devoutly to be wished. If you can end all these troubles just by dying, wonderful, death is welcome. To die, to sleep, perchance to dream. Hey, there is the rub. The problem is with that. For in the sleep of death, what dreams may come when we have shuffled off this mortal coil must give us pause. There is the respect that makes calamity of so long life, for who would bear the whips and scorns of time, the oppressor's wrong, the proud man's contumely, the pangs of despised love, the law's delay. In 20th century in India, we talk about law's delay, but Shakespeare talked about law's delay right then. The law's delay, the insolence of office, and the spurns that patient merit of the unworthy takes, when he himself might his quietus make with a bare bodkin, a kind of knife. Who would fordels bear to grunt and sweat under a weary life, but that the dread of something after death, the undiscovered country from whose bourne no traveller returns, puzzles the will, and makes us rather bear those ills we have than to fly to others that we know not of. Thus, conscience does make cowards of us all. This is the most famous sentence from Hamlet. And thus, the native hue of resolution is sicklied out with the pale cost of thought. You may resolve, I will do this, I will do that. But conscience, this thought comes in, an enterprise of great pitch and moment with this regard their currents turn or aim and lose the name of action. Soft you now, the fair Ophelia. Nymph, in thy orisons be all my sins remembered. Good my lord, how does your honour for this many a day? I humbly thank you. Well. My lord, I have remembrance of yours that I have longed to redeliver. I pray you now receive them. No, not I. I never gave you aught. Now he is pretending. That is where, and of course, this makes Polonius feel that because Ophelia rejected his love, he has lost his sanity. But King Claudius, being seriously psychotic and a great planner, he suspects. That is how all the dialogues in the play are very rich. And towards the end of his soliloquy, we see he looks at Ophelia. Soft you now, the fair Ophelia. Nymph, in thy orisons be all my sins remembered. This word nymph is very significant.
Yes, it's a very ambiguous word in the sense that nymph means a very young, beautiful woman at one level. Nymph is also a synonym for a prostitute, and the word nymphae also refers to the female sexual organ. And there is a reference to this again in the play scene, which is a very crucial play scene, which is crucial level, crucial stage in the drama, where we find that Hamlet is sitting at Ophelia's feet and he puts his head on her lap and he brings in certain words that can be very ambiguous.
That scene where Hamlet puts his head on the lap of Ophelia, that is when that play which was enacted to catch the conscience of the king. Now, after that play, as I mentioned, King Claudius gets disturbed and he goes home. On his way, goes back to his chamber. On his way, he kneels before the cross and he is trying to pray. Hamlet enters after King Claudius kneels. Now, I would like you to look at his comment. Now might I do it, Pat. Now he is a praying. And now I will do it. And so he goes to heaven. And so am I revenged. He goes to heaven. Here is not heaven and hell. He will be dead. That would be scanned. He says, let me think about it. A villain kills my father. Who is this villain? His uncle. So now look at this. Indefinite article. A villain kills. He already killed him long ago. But now he uses the word kills, present tense.
Dramatize the whole.
A villain kills my father. My father is definite, but is indefinite. A villain kills my father, and for that I, his sole son, do the same villain sent to heaven. He says, what nonsense am I doing? If your father is killed, you will send that murderer to hell, not to heaven.
Very interesting, because when he kills Polonius and people ask him where is Polonius Hamlet, and when the king's messenger asks him, he says he is in heaven. Send your messenger there to find him. When King Claudius asks him, he says, your Polonius is in heaven. You send your messenger thither to find him. If you find him not there, you will find him in the other place yourself. That
Look at that. The other place yourself. That's,
yes,
you will go to hell.
you will
anyway.
go to hell. So he wants him to go to hell.
Yeah, very beautiful.
That's a
Very,
very,
very.
that's a very
Now
interesting.
look at this, what he says. If I send my father's murderer to heaven, not hell, why? This is hire and salary,
Yes.
not revenge. I took my father grossly, full of bread, with all his crimes broad blown, as flesh as may, and now his adult stands who knows save heaven. But in our circumstance and course of thought, it is heavy with him. And am I then revenge to take him in the purging of his soul when he is fit and seasoned for his passage? No. So he decides, now I should not kill my uncle now. Up sword, and know thou a more horrid hint, bad time, when he is drunk asleep, or in his rage, or in the incestuous pleasure of his bed. Every time he is worried about the incestuous bed that he is sharing with his mother, or the mother is sharing with their uncle, or the incestuous pleasure of his bed, at game swearing, or about some act that has no relish of salvation in it. Then trip him that his heels may kick at heaven, and that his soul may be as damned and black as hell where it goes. My mother stays. This physic but prolongs the sickly days. He doesn't want to kill his mother because his father's ghost has already said. So the fact that he uses indefinite article, the fact that he uses present tense, a villain kills my father. So powerful dramatization and universalization. If any villain kills, you are not supposed to send him to heaven. That is, you don't give pleasures to someone who has committed a crime. You punish him. That is where Shakespeare's plays are very rich with material to teach even grammar.
Yes.
That is where I don't agree with T.S. Eliot that Hamlet is an artistic failure. I don't agree with that. But of course, every critic has his own attitude to a play. But in this case, it is a psychological play where he is questioning about the situation, the rotten state of Denmark, and he is questioning the information given by the ghost. Because he had doubts about his uncle's intentions, he opened a letter his uncle wrote to the king of England to get Hamlet killed.
Yes.
So he had doubts every time. There's a typical non-accepting character. I mean, you cannot, you will not get him unduly trapped. Mind you, even this sword fight with Laertes, Horatio warns him, there can be a trap. He says it doesn't matter. Readiness is all. Because he is unhappy with the whole situation. What is it I am going to do anyway? And he kills his uncle. But very interestingly, he kills his uncle after his mother is poisoned.
And dead, yes.
That means there is a small saving grace here. It's not simply because his father had told him, but now the uncle had poisoned
his wife.
Yes, and he conspired with Laertes to kill him. So there are enough justifications for Hamlet to kill this wicked king. That is how the whole play is a play of thinking, a play of the point now comes, is this providence thing which Hamlet talks about, as I mentioned, the Bible talks about, is it a bland theory of fatalism where you don't have faith in prayer and God? No. There is faith in God, there is faith in prayer. But as Claudius says, your prayer along with words should go to heaven. If only words try to go to heaven, but your ideas remain behind. See, King Claudius is unhappy with what he had done, but he is not forsaking the fruits of his action.
Yes.
Had he abdicated the throne and given it to Hamlet, And had he told Hamlet, yes, I made this mistake of
And equally importantly, broken his marriage.
with Queen Gertrude, then you would say he is not enjoying the fruits of his action. So mere wordy prayer will not help. That's what even Claudius says. My words are going, but my thoughts are not going up. That means I am not really repenting. So here also that Christian virtue of repentance should be properly understood. Yes. Repentance is real repentance, where you don't do similar things again, nor will you enjoy the fruits of your old actions.
Yes. Yeah, and Claudius falls into a pattern of pathological murderers who seem to joy in the very act itself, who seem to enjoy the very act itself. For example, when Claudius says that he is unable to really repent what he has done, we are always, personally I am reminded about Antonio in the Tempest, who kills for the pleasure of killing. And there seem to be some murderers or some characters in Shakespeare who are pathologically inclined towards killing and causing other people's deaths, such as the villain in Othello, for example, Iago, and so on. So these people, they just cause death. At least Claudius has a reason that he wants to usurp his brother's throne, and he is already in love with Gertrude. And as you pointed out, probably he did not marry because he loves her. And by the time he marries her, Hamlet is already 30 years old. So that is it's something that needs exploration, I think. Why he has remained why this chap has remained unmarried 30 years after Hamlet was born. So could it be that there is some saving grace in Claudius?
Yeah, see, I think there is a very interesting thing. He tries to repent, but says that he is not able to do it properly. That means there is a kind of schism in him. One thing is clear, had Hamlet accepted the state and kept mum, quite possible Claudius would not have planned to kill him. But the fact that Claudius planned to kill Hamlet to save his own body, to save his queen, to save his throne, shows that, as you rightly said, he is literally enjoying not only the fruits of his action, he is not seriously cursing himself for his action.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, he knows he has done something wrong, but he is not totally cursing it. Yes. He is not very unhappy, or he is not willing to get rid of the fruits of his action. He is not willing to confess openly.
Yes. To come back to the point that you had mentioned earlier, which is the idea that probably Claudius is responsible for the pregnancy of Ophelia. Now, that could be a suspicion that you may have arrived at, because Claudius is the person who is always interrupting Ophelia. Perhaps he is afraid that she is going to reveal this truth. He is the one who whenever he is present with Ophelia, interrupts her and speaks immediately after her. Yeah, so that could be one reason why we can suspect that this man has a role in Ophelia's pregnancy. And the point that you had made, that Gertrude is worried that this child will be the successor to the throne and her own son will not be. So I think the character here that of Claudius, as we see through these situations and dialogues, becomes immensely complex and challenging for us. At one level, he is a very religious guy who understands that, a religious man who understands that without sincerity of feeling, prayers are useless. How he is regretful that he is unable to really pray, and so his words go up, but his feelings, ideas remain here, as you pointed out. So this is a very complex character that and very human at the same time. So that is something that we need to think about and explore.
If the events are important, you can write a novel. That is no problem. You need a play not only, of course, you may say novel as a genre was not there at that time, that is a different point. But drama is there in showing those events with the help of character. Hamlet is a special character, and both Ben Jonson and later and also Shakespeare, they are really talking about people, natural people. How Hamlet's character, that's why Hazlitt, Coleridge, all of them say, well, we have a speck of Hamlet in us. That is, as I quoted Bernard Shaw justifies the cowardice of Hamlet. He says, all intelligent people with conscience will be cowards. They will not just take a gun and shoot everyone down. They will say, what will happen if I kill him? Is it necessary to kill him? That kind of thing. So that is where Hamlet's personality, Hamlet's character becomes crucial to the play. That's why there is a comment, Hamlet without the prince. I mean, it's not, for example, Julius Caesar is a play where Julius Caesar is there only in the first 1 or 2 scenes, whereas Hamlet is the character. All through the whole play is Hamlet and his relations with other characters.
So here we have talked about a young man who was the hero of the story. So we will in the next episode consider the story of an old man who also gradually becomes a hero, and we will see his progress from commonness, ordinariness in terms of ideas to his intellectual, spiritual growth later on in King Lear.
And he is referring to that King Lear, which is praised for its lyrical values.
Yes.
So when we go to King Lear, again we will talk about characterization, but also we will bring in the lyrical values of the play.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.